Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. I just thought I would pop in and talk to you about what's going on in the planets and the stars. And welcome to the Gaia Daily for June 28th through 30th, 2019. So how are you doing? We are in a very strange place that has to do with the eclipse season. We are fully in the eclipse season, careening into total solar eclipse that happens on Tuesday, July 2nd. And so we're in the strange energy of that comes with the eclipses. And what happens with the eclipses is that the nodes of the moon, the edge of the track that the moon is making, is lining up. The sun and the moon lining up, and that makes the eclipses happen. So the energy of eclipses is a lining up. It's a revealing, it's a darkening and a bringing of light. So and this eclipse is at 10 degrees Cancer. And so that means the sun and the moon will be in Cancer. And of course, the north node of the moon is in Cancer, not too far away. That's what makes it a total solar eclipse. So all of this Cancer energy is making this eclipse the revealing and the shadow work and the uncertainty. That eclipses are timeline. It's like when things line up, we're always talking about time and timelines. And so, but eclipses have a feeling of being outside of time. And with this Cancer energy, it's very watery and very emotional. And so that brings another element of this journey of discovery. And with Cancer, all of this happening in Cancer, this eclipse season, what's being revealed is something from deep within. And so we're beginning this process, and you can kind of feel it, where we're coming out of that solstice energy where we had all of that Mercury and Mars together, opposite Saturn and Pluto, and just a big explosive type of energy. The energy of that transit was about a fight. And now we're in this place where we need to surrender to our inner process on some level. We need to allow whatever's happening to happen. And that can be really overwhelming and scary. We talk about things that might trigger fear in our world, but the inner realm of our emotionality, our vulnerability as humans, can be very frightening, especially if you've been trying to avoid it, like most of us. And yet it's who we are. It makes our life really intense, but it also gives us the potential for joy and for growth and expansion and our spiritual awakening process. And that's what's happening. This is the part of the journey where we have to go and look within. We have to use our vulnerabilities to show us where we are being kept in the past. Now, this is because starting today, we're feeling Saturn conjunct the South Node. We've felt this already before, and now we're feeling it again for the second time because Saturn is in a retrograde. So now Saturn is retrograde. And so Saturn represents the past. It represents structures. It represents authority. It represents contracts, represents karma, represents obstacles. And the South Node also represents the past. It's like, what's holding us back from the past? What are we dragging behind unresolved that hasn't been addressed? So yeah, that's a fun party, right? Everybody, or all of these elements together, and Pluto's not too far away in Capricorn, and we are just coming up against a wall of what seems like a movable energy, and yet that energy is made up of these emotions and these vulnerabilities that we have not been willing to face. So, now we're being called in, like pulled into a vortex of this eclipse energy. So we don't have a choice. We got to surrender to this process. And that might mean letting, somehow keeping the energy moving. And sometimes that's tears. Sometimes it's doing something creative. Sometimes it's exercise. Sometimes it's talking it through. And it's just a really important energy for us right now. So we're still feeling this the sun in square with Chiron. That was exact yesterday, still very close today. The sun is our identity, and it is in Cancer, right? And so we're looking at our identity around nurturing, whether or not we are nurturable or whether or not we deserve nurturing. Can we incarnate or bring that into our lives? And Chiron in Aries is Chiron is a wounded healer, so it talks about deep, deep pains. In Aries, it's about pains around being who you really are and your true self. So the sun in this intense square, the sun is our identity, right? And in square to Chiron, it says, nope, look at all the times you have not been who you are. This is coming up huge for light work souls, indigo souls right now with Chiron and Aries. It's like, where have you not been who you really are? You know, how have you survived this life? And most of us by hiding so deep inside of ourselves that we don't even know who we are. Now, so this journey deep within with this Cancer eclipse is likely to be an opportunity to reveal. So that's kind of a cool thing. Once you get through the muck and you move the energy and you start moving through these vulnerabilities and facing these feelings that are coming up underneath that, because this is the other side of Chiron. Chiron is a wounded healer. It's our deepest, deepest wounds, but it's also our healing magic, like our shamanic power. Underneath that, when you heal the wounds, you move that energy out of your life and just identify with that. And that's exactly what the sun is saying. The sun is saying, okay, Chiron moved into Aries out of the Piscean victim energy, but we haven't moved, right? Like we got to start identifying with a little bit more personal power. And maybe this is bringing up those feelings. When we do go deep within, we have to find those feelings of like maybe around this issue where we haven't been able to be who we really are, to the point where now we don't know who we are. And we're trying to land home here on the planet. We're trying to do what we came here to do, get on board with whatever in the heck is going on here. And yet we're not whole and complete, and we've been traumatized in these past lives away from that truth of who we are. But it's trying to land home. But it's almost like, who is that, right? Like, how can you receive who you really are if you don't even know who you are? It takes a lot of adjustment. And that's kind of the energy of this time that we're in. And so we are coming up against all of that stuff, programming from the past. And a lot of this is being triggered right now. So the programming around where you've compromised yourself, where you've pretended you were different, where you denied your deepest passions in order to fit in and be safe and get the nurturing you need. That's this interesting relationship between the Aries energy, which is in square, to the Cancer energy. They're both cardinal signs. So with all of this stuff, even though we're going to the past, we are trying to start something new. And that's our new identity, which is more true to who we really are, which has been kind of cast aside because of all this programming. And so there is a gift here. Because in this Cancer, this deep journey within, it's like maybe underneath all the muck, you can find and be open to these mysteries of you that really want to come and land home in your life and be a part of what you're doing here, and help you find the people that you're going to work with on these projects and the experiences that are waiting for you when you're willing to receive, because we talk about Cancer as being around receiving. And so this energy is around receiving your soul, your true soul essence, like the truth of who you are. There's a part of ourselves, we have a different personality type identity for each lifetime, but then there's a part of ourselves that is our soul spiritual essence that expands and grows, and our talents and skills. We keep those with us as we move through lifetimes. And yet a lot of us have no access to our most precious gifts and skills. So maybe this Cancer energy, it's about nurturing and receiving nurturing from the world, knowing we deserve nurturing, and shifting our whole relationship to nurturing. But it's also about receiving this truth of who we are, the life we want, the gifts and skills that we need to do what we want to do, to have that fulfilled experience in this incarnation. And everything is about that right now with this Jupiter in Sagittarius this year. So it's a really intense time, but it's time to surrender and just journey and go into the past, ask, just separate yourself, feel the emotions, move the energy as best you can, but separate yourself from that, because it's all stuff that's happened already, right? But we got to go into these past stories. It's almost like we're having something is happening with this eclipse that's cracking open our Akashic records, and we are able to see through to maybe why, or have a little bit deeper understanding of these root core stuff that in belief systems and contracts, whatever it is, that's holding us back in the past, right? Saturn conjunct the South Node exact for this eclipse in Capricorn across the way. Really, really powerful, potent energy. And of course, with the Cancer Capricorn energy, we're always talking about power and our basic human needs, right? And where have we given up our power to get our needs met? And of course, with the Aries energy, which is square to that, it's where you have denied who you are and the truth of who you are, compromised yourself. And this is all coming up right now. So also today, we're starting to feel Mercury and Mars come back together. So in this month, just a few weeks ago, or a week or so ago, we had this intense week-long conjunction of Mercury and Mars. And with that intense opposition, that was during the solstice. And then that intense opposition with Pluto, with Saturn, with Mercury and Mars opposite Saturn and Pluto, but then it was opposite Pluto. It was a really intense time. And now it's happening again because Mercury is getting close to going to a retrograde cycle. That's going to happen on July 7th. So it's slowing down. It's getting closer to Mars. Mars is catching up to Mercury. And so they're coming together again. Now, when Mercury and Mars come together, Mars is our warrior self, our expression, our wanting to change and do and make stuff happen. And Mercury is our communication and also our everyday conceptual reality. But it could bring some explosive communication. And with this square to Chiron going on, because Venus is moving into Cancer on the 3rd, and then it will come into a square with Chiron. So we're going to feel that again after this eclipse. And it's like this inner frustration of where we have had to compromise who we are. And that might want to come out in some intense words. So just know that that's possible. It's actually a great time to communicate with people, some stuff that you've been wanting to communicate to people around you where you haven't been speaking that truth, this big throat chakra energy. And of course, it's going to have to do with these deep vulnerabilities and that deep inner journey. So are you ready to share that with the world? Because it might be erupting with Mars and Mercury together. And we're going to be feeling that until the 10th. So quite an energy there. So I hope you can join me. This energy, this eclipse is so incredibly potent, and the astrology just continues to give us this messages, just intensity after intensity, that this is the time to pay attention, to wake up, to just understand that we're going through this amazing process and understand that that's why shit is so intense sometimes. Know that stuff is moving right now. So when you go to these intense feelings where you feel like you know things are coming up from past, because that's always going to happen with Saturn in the South Node. It's that stuff from the past coming up, the karmic purge, and you can have these feelings where all of a sudden you're just feeling visceral pain or anxiety in your physical body that has nothing to do with the present moment. Maybe it was triggered, but it's actually past life experience, like reliving this, and it's really really frustrating because there's no validation of this. There's no support for this in our world, and we don't have access to that information. But this eclipse is cracking the door on that Akashic records, right? So it's actually an opportunity to just have a gleam of light come through of understanding that can help us free ourselves from these past patterns. So really powerful, but know that when those feelings come up, it could be this old energy. All of a sudden you're back in a really stressful situation from a past life because it's trying to cleanse from your field. And so just kind of remind yourself, this might not have to do with right now. It's some energy moving through, and it will shift. Just kind of, stuff is shifting, right? So if you feel crazy or like squeezed or anxiety or intensity, all of these things that are coming up, just know that I'm going to feel different in a little while. Just tell yourself that, and just not get attached to it. Energy is working through. This is a cleansing. I don't have to identify with this right now. This is about clearing stuff from the past, and that can be really, really helpful to just remind yourself of that in the moment, because sometimes we go to these places and we think we're never going to be able to get out of them. We're trapped there forever, and it just brings this desperate feeling. And like what I'm seeing in people right now is that it is moving. So just kind of sit tight and know that it's like, okay, this is happening right now, but in a little while I'll feel different, and you will notice that. You'll be like, oh, okay, I think it's okay now. Another wave is going to come back, right? These are contraction pains. These are intense waves of energy because we're birthing. This is a lot of the Cancer energy. We're birthing a new reality. We're birthing a new self, that Chiron energy in Aries. We're birthing, a new world, a new planet. And it's not easy work sometimes. But here we are, we're doing it together, and it's an amazing experience, and we want to take advantage and pay attention to what's going on right now. And so I look forward to seeing you. I hope you can join me for the soul group session that's going to be happening at the exact time of this total solar eclipse on July 2nd at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in US. And so that is a group intuitive session. We're going to be looking at shared past life energies and pictures and get clearings and healings. And it looks like some of this is going to do with a soul retrieval stuff, coming home. And that was the theme that kind of came through this. And in order to come home, we have to journey deep within to get through the muck, to clear the karmic contracts, to see who we really are. Right? And that's the process. So it's great to do it together. So I hope you can join that soul group session on Tuesday. I will stay close in touch in the meantime. And for the 2 weeks in between eclipses is always really strange and revealing. So I will be here. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.